And welcome to the Bunker Bash. My name is Ed Rush, five-time #1 best-selling author, former F-18 fighter pilot, your host for the most positive place on the planet. Listen, I'm here to tell you that normal is dead. In fact, normal died several years ago, according to my guest on today's show, Perry Marshall. But first, I just want to welcome you and encourage you to continue to join what I believe is the most positive place on the planet with insanely implementable ideas. Today, we're going to talk about a concept called hyper evolution. That's the world, the nation, and you moving faster than ever. But before I do that, let me just say hello to those of you who are watching live. Make sure to jump into chat, depending on your social media platform. That's either off to the right or down below. And please do jump in and say hello. We've got a whole bunch of folks that just joined us, and I want to say hello to some of our friends who just joined us in chat. Let's see. I've got Catherine. Hey, Catherine from Hideaway Lake, Texas. We're on mandatory shelter in place. Look at this. I love this. All is well, and I'm getting lots of content creation done. Remember, when life gives you lemons to make lemonade. Barbara Hales, what's up? Hey, Barbara. Today I'm focusing on my podcast. She says, want to be on an episode? Heck yeah, I'd like to be on an episode. And by the way, I was just talking to a good friend of mine named Paul Culligan. Paul is, in my opinion, one of the best podcasting coaches and teachers in the world. I'm going to bring him on the show hopefully sometime soon. Hello, Lori Polyp. Good to see you. Drew says the corona was a perfect catalyst for all the central bankers and the Fed to do a global debt reset. Yeah, interesting. By the way, my episode episode number 6, just 2 days ago, I talked about my opinions on the gigantic stimulus package that's working its way through Congress like something going through someone's large intestine. And the metaphor is exactly where I want it to be on that one. It's putting a massive and amazing powers in the hand of one person. That is the Treasury Secretary, who gets to decide, like Der Kommissar, where all the money goes. Paul Bigham, my man. Ed and Perry, two of my favorite Alliance of Kings members. Good to see you, buddy. Jim Butts, hello to you. Denise, what's going on for making this possible? Charles says hello. Hello, Nicole Gephardt. Awesome to see you as well. Perry is on board and one of my favorite people in the world. And Perry, I'm coming to you in about 2 minutes. Cindy Arledge, hey, Cindy, how are you? Good to see you, Ed. We're doing great. And McKinney, you're locked down too. What's up, Dwayne Clark? Hello. Gina Longo, so awesome to see you. And hey, Roy, good to see you as well. Edward Lynch says, good copy. All right, so, here we go. Let me see this. Roy Reed says, Evolution 2.0, and that is the man that we are about to talk to. So I'm going to do an introduction really quickly to my friend Perry Marshall, but I'm going to read something that Perry just recently said on his blog, and I want this to sink in for a moment because this is where we're going to start our conversation today. Perry said, coronavirus is the last dirt on normal's coffin. The world you knew is gone, and it's not coming back. You can take one of two stances. Number one, try to cling to what was before. Number two, eagerly welcome the revolution and embrace the future unknown. This show is about welcoming the revolution and embracing the future that is unknown. So be sure to say hello in chat. Be sure to click that button right below you that says like. That tells YouTube and Google and Facebook and Twitter that you like this and that someone else should come and watch it. And by all means, make sure you click the button that says share and tell your friends, because today's episode is going to be one of the most important episodes you watch as we show you how to not die, not just survive, but thrive in the coming new world's economy. Let me do a quick background on Perry, who I consider a friend. Perry and I met back in 2008. Actually, it was when I was just starting out in business, back when I had basically one jacket and two ties. And I took a course with Perry on Google AdWords. At the time, you could put about $10 into Google and you could get a whole bunch of new leads and customers. And I was doing that for a small business that went from about $1,000 a month to about $12,000 to $15,000 a month underneath Perry's tutelage. I copied and pasted, did it for another business that grew to about $250,000 a year using fundamentally the principles that I was learning from Perry Marshall. Perry Marshall is the author of The Ultimate Guide to Google AdWords, 80/20 Sales and Marketing. And I'm going to bring you on actually while I'm doing the rest of this this introduction. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, great to be here.
Great.
Love being here,
and
Ed.
Perry is the
Thank
only
you.
person I know on planet Earth who would get a book on fractals and actually read the entire thing from cover to cover. It wasn't a bet or a dare. He actually really enjoyed it. What's up, man? It's good to have you on.
Hey, I'm glad that I'm in a world that actually has a place for geeks, because, you know, I could have just been a lost poor soul, you know, with the flux density of my speaker magnets and my fractal books, and looks like we're actually finding a useful way to help people run their lives. So it's great to be here. It's great to be with you.
So, by the way, Perry's also the author of Evolution 2.0, which we're going to talk about the concept of hyperevolution. This is I mentioned this, Perry, on the show yesterday. This is my dog-eared book. It's my second time through Evolution 2.0. It's not, you know, it's not Harry Potter and it's not a light read, but it's not the Sorcerer's Stone, you know, yeah,
that's true.
And it can't be played. It can't be played with teenagers. That's for sure. But I want you to comment on the first thing that you said, which, by the way, we've been focusing for the last week and a half here in the Bunker Bash on making lemons out of lemonade. Sorry, making lemonade out of lemons. So tell me your thought. Try to cling to what was before. Or coronavirus is the last dirt on normal's coffin. What did you mean by that?
So I think that normal went away in the middle of 2016, and normal was kicked out of the house when Trump got elected, and most people are still looking through the rearview mirror and they're wishing it was normal. And now normal, like the bullet is in its head and like it's dead. Normal is gone and it's not coming back. And there's going to be a lot of people, they're still like, hey, remember the good old days, and like the good old days are gone and we're in a new era. And like, yeah, I know it's scary. We're leaping into the void. And like, well, that's like, I've done this before and I'm doing it again. I'm doing it with all of you, and you got to kiss the rear view mirror bye-bye and plunge into the future. And I don't mean that as a platitude. I like a bunch of old rules are gone, and there's some new rules that need to be discovered, and the rest of them have to be made up. And you're either going to be the people who discover and make up the new rules, or you're going to be the people that get steamrolled by the new rules. Then there's no two ways about it. That's what it's going to be.
So so I went to your predictions. You wrote your 2020 predictions. I would imagine you probably wrote them in December or January, long before this thing came about. Yeah. And in that, the first prediction you had, we'll talk about a couple of them, was you said this is the agility decade, which if that wasn't ever one of the most accurate predictions I've ever heard. I mean, we just went from, I mean, I would be on the road right now speaking at an event, but I'm here now speaking into a Logitech camera in San Diego to you in Chicago. You've been on the phone, so have I. I mean, we both have quite a few active one-on-one clients. What are you hearing from the street?
Well, first of all, everybody is sit up at rapt attention. A week ago, I did an office hours call for my roundtable members on Zoom. I think I have 28 of them, 22 of them are on the call. Now, 2 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, if any other day, any other week, I'd said, hey, gonna do office hours on Zoom for whoever wants to show up, I would get 5, 6, 7, no, like 3/4 of them are there. Well, why? Well, a bunch of people, like I've got a bunch of clients who laid off 20% or 30 or even 50% of their staff last week. I've got clients who like suddenly just massively pivoting, clients like a fitness center that the state of Illinois, everybody's got to close down. Companies in the trade show business, well, there aren't going to be any trade shows for 3 to 6 months. And so, I guess we're not in the trade show business anymore, are we? And so, yeah, we're in a whole new era. So what's the pattern? The pattern is people present these problems to us, and at first it's like, I'm totally stumped. I don't know what to do. But then we start twisting the Rubik's Cube, and we start peeling the onion, and we start circling the problem. And then insights start coming out, and solutions start emerging. It's like, well, you could do this, and you could do this, and you could take charge of this situation. Instead of waiting for your client to do whatever, you could just go do it for them. And so I guess to use a metaphor, we've all heard that Warren Buffett saying, when the tide goes out, you find out who's been swimming naked. Well, 80% of the world is swimming naked and now is standing there naked. So what do you do? Especially, I've got lots of clients who, they are agencies, they're consultants, they're advertising guys, or whatever it might be. So what do? You go grab as many towels and swimsuits as you can, and you run out to the naked swimmers and you give them a towel. At least, if not swimsuit, at least you give them a towel. Here, wrap this around your waist. And you're handing these out, and you're not waiting for them to come to you. You're going to them, and you're just kind of ignoring the fact that there's a bunch of embarrassment. Don't obsess about that. Just hand out the towel and run to the next person, okay? And the prime directive is, don't run away from the chaos, run into the chaos. The chaos is where the solution is.
So you've got folks, I think go to the gym owner. The door, so the Chicago mayor, by the way, I laughed. I couldn't not. She said, don't run. No, she said you can go on runs, but don't go far. Which I thought, talk about ambiguous leadership right there. She said, look, just go for a walk, but don't go for a far walk, because the police will arrest you if you go for a far walk, but not a short walk. So anyway, welcome to your Chicagoland, Perry.
Well, what this tells you is that the real leaders, I'll tell you, look, the real leaders are not the people in charge. The real leaders are the people who are not sleepwalking. The real leaders were the 22 people that were on my office hour Zoom call, and they're all sitting forward in their chairs, and they're all listening, and they're all talking to each other, and we're all stirring the idea pot, and we're all solving everybody's problems one at a time. Okay, so trade show companies. So what these guys do is they sell software that processes trade show leads. So you're not in the trade show business. You're in the sales conversion business. And dude, you've been with me for years. You know more about sales conversion and marketing than 99% of the people in the world, if not 99.5%. So pick up the phone and start calling your clients and saying, so how are your sales this week? You don't even have to talk about trade shows. And I said, listen, I cannot tell you, sitting here on the phone right now, I cannot tell you what your business model is going to be. I can't tell you exactly what you're going to invoice them for and how that's going to work. All I know is they got the same problem you do. They got the whole world went on a tilt-a-whirl, and everything's different, and they're not meeting their sales targets, and they're scrambling around, and they're swimming without a swimsuit, and they just got exposed naked, and any swimsuit you have, they'll take. Okay, so go find something they can do. Go use your data and look at their leads, and engineer a solution. Like help the sales manager, help the marketing manager, help them make their numbers, coach them through the situation. Because if you're doing that, then when it's time to decide who's going to get a check, which vendor we're going to keep, they're going to keep you. And not only that, some of your clients, their business went up. Wine is up. Vitamins are up. Okay. There's all kinds of stuff that's up, not down. Oh, you know what else, Ed? Ed, get this. Amazon stopped advertising on Google.
Huh.
Click prices are down 30% on Google search just because of that. You know what? Facebook prices are the lowest they've been since 2013. Now, that doesn't mean that you should just go buy a bunch of Facebook clicks. No, you got to have your conversion tracking, and you got to watch every input, output, ROI. You got to watch it like a hawk. But that means you can go into swimming pools you could never swim in before, and now all of a sudden you can if you have a swimsuit.
It's interesting. So I was on the phone. When I sent an email out this morning to my list, this is what I sent out. And I actually was talking to my assistant about this because I asked, does this sound too insensitive? Because it did sound insensitive. But the truth is, so I was on the phone with a friend of mine, actually a mutual friend of ours, and she's been hoping and praying and working towards a breakthrough for 3 years now. And I was on the phone with her and I just said, look, I think that the coronavirus might actually be the big break that you've been looking for. And I've been on the phone with probably 4 or 5 of my 8 partner advisor clients, my inside folks. And I said the same thing to every single one of them. I'll give you an example. There was somebody I was talking to yesterday who's in the estate planning business. And getting people's attention in their 60s and 70s to take the time to do estate planning it's not impossible, but it's almost impossible. I mean, you need a life event. Somebody has to have a heart attack or a stroke, or dad has to be in a wheelchair or moving into assisted living before the family actually pays attention to estate planning. And he's not in his office now, and no one's in his office, and things started getting slow. And I said, look, now's the time to get your ass on Zoom and start doing estate planning sessions with every lead that you tried to follow up with that you couldn't get to, because now you've got their attention, because the folks in their 70s think they're going to die. And so you've got this time where all these businesses are slowing down, but at the same time, you've got this massive opportunity. And frankly, Perry, it's what you just said. It's actually just helping people. But the thing about it is, you used to never have people's attention, but now you do. I'll give you another example, and then we'll just riff on this for a second. Another one of my clients works with dentists, but she helps dentists with wealth planning. And getting in touch with dentists is impossible because dentists always think they're busy all the time. But now they're not, because nobody wants to open their mouth to someone's fingers. While at the same time, every dentist just lost 40% of their wealth portfolio. I'm like, this is your perfect time. You've got a solution that's not in the stock market, and now you have their attention. So much with anything, Dan Kennedy, who we mutually learned from, said, you decide what side of the cash register you stand on. And like with anything, this is the time to figure out where you are sitting on the cash register, and helping businesses is probably step number 1.
That's right. And so the people that leap into that void and leap into that chaos, and they go after those bleeding necks, because there are bleeding necks everywhere. There are more bleeding necks this week than there were 2 weeks ago. And so yeah, pick up the phone and start talking to people. So what's your biggest problem right now? And if you probably can't help them, probably three-fourths of the problems they present you, there's nothing that you could personally do, but you might know somebody. So whatever it is, do it. Okay. And then the people that you can help, then you rush in there and you help them. So, in Evolution 2.0, I talk about where do you get a new species? Well, you don't get a new species by just waiting a million years. That doesn't really do anything. The way that you get a new species is you can get one tomorrow. What you do is you mate two creatures together that are different species, like lion plus tiger equals liger. Okay, literally, there's a creature.
Napoleon Dynamite.
There's a creature called a liger, or
My
donkey plus
animal.
a horse equals mule. Okay, now here's the thing. Do lions want to mate with tigers? No. So when do lions mate with tigers? When there's a volcano or an earthquake, a catastrophe, a famine, a flood, a drought. Like, there ain't a lion anywhere around here. I haven't seen a lion in days. Woo, look at that tigress. Man, she's actually pretty good looking. That's how you get a liger. I'm completely serious. Like, this is how biology works. You get massive radiation of species in a catastrophe. I was talking to this guy, and we were talking about this period 500 million years ago called the Cambrian explosion. And in the Cambrian explosion, you've got these really simple creatures, and then all of a sudden, in an instant, you've got these very complicated creatures. And it's like this layer of soil, simple creatures, this layer of soil, complicated ones, with virtually no intermediate forms, very little intermediate step between the two. Okay? Well, Evolution 2.0 talks about how that stuff actually happens, but here's what the guy told me. He said, well, I was talking to one of the scientists that was digging there, and I said, well, what was going on at the time? And the guy said, a severe drought. And he said, and what you have is, if you look at the creatures they had in the lower layer, and then you go to the next layer up, you have creatures that are better at retaining water. And the more complicated body plans, they also are better at retaining water, and so they can survive in a drought. The drought actually caused the engineering that produced the new species, okay? You never get evolution when things are comfortable. You get evolution when things are uncomfortable. So we have just shifted into an evolutionary phase right now. Here it is.
So these hyper, by the way, I'm gonna I'll jump on real quick and just say, if you've just joined us, by the way, welcome to the Bunker Bash. My name is Ed Rush. I'm your host. I'm here with my friend Perry Marshall. We're talking about the current global hyper evolution. And if you've just joined us, by the way, be sure to click that like button below, and there should be like a subscribe button that shows up right about here. That would be awesome too. Today on the show, we're talking about the hyper evolution that's occurring in the market, in the world today, and what you can do to grow and thrive. Perry, in a recent article, said you got three choices: you can die, you can survive, or you can hyper evolve. And in a minute, I'm going to ask him what that is all about. And by the way, today is Focus Friday, so we are on. Bunker Bash is on currently every day of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, weekdays. That is 10 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock Pacific. This is the most positive place on the planet with insanely implementable ideas. By the way, make sure that you say hello in chat. My man Andy Falco just jumped in and said hello. And Denise said something I really liked, which is, this feels like the start of the American dream to me. So I'm going to come back, Perry, to you. So I was reading a book on American history from an economic perspective, and the author actually took everyone. He took us back. He took me back to Egypt. He said something really interesting, and I didn't quite understand it at the time, but it made sense the more he explained it. So you had Egypt, which basically grew up as this massive power, but then completely stagnated. And the reason they stagnated is they had this beautiful river that they got essentially everything they needed from. And then they had thousands of miles of desert so that no land force could get anywhere near to attacking them ever, ever, ever. And so what you had is you had like a Babylonian empire and a Persian empire, and in certain times the Israeli empire grow to be these massive powers, but not because not because of location, but because they had so many enemies around them that when you're surrounded by enemies, you have no choice but to become stronger or die. And so you've written about this concept of hyper-evolution. You just talked about this idea that it's actually when the pressure cooker is on that things actually start to move really fast. And yesterday I talked on the show about how essentially in World War II was the hyper accelerator to put America where they would have been. We would have been 20 years later as a superpower. So what are you seeing? What are you seeing hyper evolve? And really, as business owners, like, what should we do to get our nose into the game and hyper evolve with the world?
So when bacteria are fat and happy and they're sitting in their petri dish, they'll replicate, and when they replicate, there will be not one single mutation, not one single copy error. You could have a billion letters of DNA and not a single copying error. When you put them under pressure, when they're starving, when there's no water, when there's too much heat, whatever, their mutation rate will go up 100,000x, and all of a sudden they are literally rearranging their DNA. So understand this. This is how your immune system works. So you take antibiotics because you got strep. Now you got strep germs floating around in your blood, okay? And that strep germ is going, man, like this poison is leaking in my cell wall, and if I don't get rid of this poison, I'm going to die. What can I do? And he will go around. You know what he does? He goes to his mastermind group. And he hangs out with his other bacteria friends, because bacteria live in colonies like we think they live alone. No. No, they live in colonies. It's like, hey, does anybody got a pump? I need a pump, like really bad. And somebody's like, yeah, it's in my Dropbox folder. Bacteria have a Dropbox folder. It's called a plasmid. It's like a public sharing pocket that's on the side of the cell. And like, oh, here you go. Here's a pump. And it'll suck that code in, insert it, read the code, build the pump the poison out, update its Dropbox folder, and start sharing it with all its bacteria friends. And that can happen in 20 minutes. Okay, that's why you have to finish your antibiotics. Because if you don't, like, it's going to come back, and then it's going to be a super bug, and now you're in trouble. Okay, so this is how bacteria work. Well, guess what? This is how entrepreneurs work. Man, if you're not in a mastermind group right now, good luck.
Amen.
Good luck.
Yep.
And so this is why I can't even remember how many. Did I tell you about like 22 people like sitting? I can't. I've been on so many interviews.
By the way, I want you to tell it. But I thought this comment was awesome. Andy Lockwood said, "This is the best lion mating business live stream I've seen all day on Facebook." By the way, if you don't know Andy, he's good for at least one sarcastic comment each day. That's his DNA pump contribution to the world right now. So tell the 22 story. I've got another question for you, but tell that one first.
Okay, so last week I had an office hours Friday afternoon. Any roundtable members want to call in on Zoom and talk? Let's talk COVID-19 and everything. I think I have 28 of these guys. 22 of them showed up. Now, on any other Friday afternoon, if I just randomly announced that I'd be available, I'd probably get 7 or 8 or 5. I got 22. I got 3/4 of them. And they are sitting forward in their chair, and they are listening, and they are hanging on every word. And everybody is like, and we are peeling the onion, twisting the Rubik's Cube, and one by one, like, people put their situations in front of us. And at first it'd be like, dang, that's hard. How do we I don't know what you do about that. But then you start poking at it, and pretty soon insights start falling out. It's like, oh, well, how about so okay, you got this client, and like you're bringing leads, and then the client's saying, well, this lead is a school, and the school won't even let us go in there to install the equipment because we might have a virus, and so we can't do that, so we can't buy any more leads. So notice the leads are working, but there's an obstacle. So we go, so you call the school, because they're not willing to, and you figure out, like, under what conditions will you let a contractor into the school and install a piece of equipment? And you call it, you figure it out. It's like you might have to bring the lead to them on a silver platter. But if you're gonna go down, you're gonna go down fighting. Or maybe you go to the school and you sell them the equipment instead of your client. Like, there's no reason why you can't do that. You can find some unemployed guy that knows how to install that equipment. Like, find a way over, under, around, through, on an airplane, in a blimp, in a helicopter, on a bicycle. And then if something's doomed to not work, then figure out that it doesn't work and move on to something else. One of the biggest, Ed, go ahead.
No, keep going. I'm gonna talk about this, but keep going unless you wrap
so 80-20 sales and marketing. I got this chapter called The 5 Power Disqualifiers from John Paul Mendoza. They are the 5 things that are always true every time anybody sells anything to anybody. Okay, and here's what they are. Number 1, they have the money. If they don't have the money, they ain't buying. I don't care how much I love you, you love me, Barney, kumbaya. If they don't have the money.
By the way, 5 things, write these in chat and write them down on your notepad. So John is a brilliant guy that Perry's quoting. So first one, they have the money.
They have the money. Power disqualifier number 2, they have a bleeding neck. Now, let me explain what I mean by bleeding neck. Have you ever gone to the hospital, to the emergency room with a broken arm? Ah, my arm is broken.
And then you sit there for like 4 hours.
Yeah. The lady doesn't even look up, and she slaps a clipboard on the counter and says, fill this out. And you're sitting there next to a Good Housekeeping magazine for 2.5 hours watching soap operas on TV while they do whatever they do in there. Right? You think you have an emergency, and then a guy with a gunshot wound, blood is squirting out of his aorta, splattering on the ceiling. He comes in, and he's in there. Okay,
because that's what I mate with a lion. That was where the wound came from. Sorry, go.
That is right. And then the tiger showed up, and then it was all over. Right? So do you understand the difference between a broken arm and a gunshot wound? One of the first things you're going to have to realize right now is everybody's in shock. Okay? So if you're in the business of fixing broken arms, you're going to be waiting 2 weeks or however long. Okay? So find the gunshot wounds and go bring bandages. Okay? So do they have the money? Do they have a bleeding neck, like a gunshot wound? Because there's certain things that people are thinking about right now. Right now, people are in Homer Simpson, lizard brain, keep myself alive, keep myself occupied. Okay? Number 3, do they buy into your unique selling proposition? Number 4, can they say yes? Or do they only have the ability to say no? Like selling to the husband, but the wife has to say yes. So the husband can only say no, but the husband cannot say yes. Or, you're selling to the purchasing agent, but they really need approval from the vice president of manufacturing, and you're not talking to that guy, so they can only say no, but they can't say yes. That's what number 4 is. And number 5 is, does it fit into their overall plans? Well, their overall plans are probably different this week than they were last week. So you got 5 criteria: money, bleeding neck, USP, ability to say yes, overall plans. 5 things. If all 5 are not a yes, then don't try to sell them anything and go and sell them something else, or sell it to somebody else, or go find somebody else you can sell for. If you can find bleeding necks and patch them up, or if you can find bleeding necks and find people who know how to patch them up, you are going to eat.
Thank you, Gina, by the way, for posting these in chat. It's very cool. By the way, Denise said this, which I like. This is making me want to start a local movement of leaders who know to be optimistic, which is right on about that, by the way. Local
Yes, Denise.
Is really important part of that, and I appreciate that. So you have this hyper evolution happening where all of a sudden the pressure's on, which essentially scientifically makes things move faster. And as the pressure's on, things are moving faster. As a culture, we should be evolving faster. Economically, we should be moving faster. Scientifically, we should be moving faster. In business, we should be moving faster and changing faster. While at the exact same time, how do I say this? The deity of the Washington deity with a lowercase d comes in and says, don't worry about anything. We'll take care of this for you. And we're going to make all of your risk problems go away. By the way, I laughed so hard. I was scrolling through my news feed about a week ago, and like story number 25 on the list of stories was how Joe Biden sealed the Democratic nomination. And I thought the most important thing in our world in February has now become article number 25 on page 3 of the news feed. It just goes to show how meaningless some things are actually in the big scheme of things. But
no kidding.
But the government now comes in literally in a moment where the world is encouraging us to move faster and create faster, and the government comes in and says, "Don't worry about it. You don't need to innovate. We'll take care of all of your problems." Your thoughts on that?
Well, what I think is the college education system is broken, but it's the Walking Dead.
Oh, it's interesting. Okay. I was going to ask you about that. You had an article, or in your article, you talked about Sally Mae going away, the over leveraging of America, and how that's just going to disappear. So talk about that. I wanted to get to that anyway.
Yeah. So one of my predictions in January was Occupy Sally Mae. I wrote this. Some charismatic college grad is going to stand up and say, I'm not paying my student loans back. You can throw me in jail. You can repossess my car. You can throw me out of my house. You can rescind my degree. You can do anything you want. I'm not paying it back. Who's with me? And you're going to have like 100,000 college grads go, I'm with you. And then the whole thing is going to come to a screeching halt because it's going to cave in. And so I wrote that at the end of December. And well, I just found out that within the last couple of days, some government agency is saying, well, we're going to be a little more lenient about people paying back their student loans instead of, putting them in stocks and pillorying them. And okay, so there you go. That's the prick that's going to pop the bubble, because once the toothpaste starts coming out of the tube, it's not going back, because the whole thing is way over bloated. It's optimized for maximum student loans. It's not optimized for education. It's not maximized for jobs. It's not optimized for any of these actual desired outcome. It's maximized for accumulating debt. Okay, and so the debt is at a fever pitch. So we're looking at that. So actually, I have a whole list of systems that have already been broken, that everybody knows are broken, that are walking dead. So higher education, okay? Also, public school education. like regular kids, okay?
Amen.
Okay, yeah. And the cancer industry. Ed, 2 days ago, I did the most electrifying interview I have ever done in my life. It's going to come out any day now. It's with Azra Raza. She wrote a book called The First Cell. She is an oncologist at Columbia University in New York City. She has been helping cancer patients for 30 years. Her husband trained her in oncology, and he died of cancer. And in her book, this is the most emotionally transparent book by a medical professional you have ever read. It is brutally honest. And this book tells the story of her patients. She said, I had no intention of writing a book. She says, you know what made me write a book? She said, my daughter's dear friend, age 22, went to the emergency room because he was suddenly paralyzed and found out he had a 9-centimeter tumor of the most aggressive imaginable cancer that was inoperable.
Huh.
And he woke up from the surgery and they said, we couldn't do anything. And he said, oh, well, I'll talk to Azra. She's my friend's mom. She'll fix it.
Huh.
And Azra could do nothing. And he died 16 months later. And she said, I have to write this book. You know what she says in this book? If you have cancer, your chances of surviving are no better now than they were in 1930, even though we've spent $250 billion on it.
Huh.
She said, Perry, I love your book because in your book, I didn't know she'd read my book until I got on the podcast. She goes, your book says cancer is evolution running out of control. She said, that is exactly what it is. And she goes, we have ways of preventing it. We have never been better at preventing an early detection of cancer, and that works. But once it gets going, you're not dealing with one species of cancer cell. You've got 1,000 species of cancer cell, and you need 1,000 treatments, and there's no way to do 1,000 treatments. She goes, you got to nip it in the bud early. It was riveting. It's going to be on my Evolution 2.0 blog any day now. It was riveting. She said, you know what we are doing? Every time we come up with cancer therapy that makes cancer patients last 2 weeks longer, we are heralding it as a breakthrough and having a parade and giving people accolades and distinctions. And meanwhile, the patients are dying and it's in agony. And she goes chapter by chapter by chapter by chapter. You know, she talks about the guy that like took out half of his shoulder so that, you know, hopefully he wouldn't have a tumor come back, and people that get bombarded with radiation. Okay. And all this, she goes, it's not working. And all the things we know how to do that actually work, we're not doing them because the system, she says it's paycheck oncology. This is broken.
Yeah, because fundamentally you have an industry that if cancer went away overnight, billions of dollars would disappear. So when you have this incentive mismatch, right. By the way, going back to the federal government taking away everyone's risk and therefore taking away everyone's responsibility, you also take away reward. And it dawns on me that if we treated cancer like we're treating the coronavirus, we'd probably have it figured out in about a month. You know, like we probably would just figure it all out. You mentioned the student loan thing. It reminds me of a quote that I heard that it goes like this: if you owe the bank $200, it's your problem. But if you owe the bank $200 billion, it's the bank's problem, you know? And that's I mean, that's where we're at. You know, we have this, I mean, I said this 2 days ago on the show. We have this system that's been developed on purpose by accident, where you have an upper class that always gets taken care of by Washington because they know them, and you have a lower class that always gets taken care of by Washington because of virtue signaling down. And basically the entire middle class, but business owners and entrepreneurs are the ones constantly footing the bill, while we're the ones that are constantly changing and evolving and getting better. So the fact is, at some point, we're going to all get together and there's going to actually be a revolution, and we're going to get things back to the way that they should be, where incentive is right, where diseases are actually getting healed because of, because we're motivating each other to actually do what's right instead of move into one of the end brackets. So, by the way, I want to say this really quickly because you do have that interview coming up. So tell everybody, I know you've got a webpage that people can go to, and I don't want to forget this because I'm going to ask you a couple other thoughts real quick, and then we're going to get to. I'm going to let you go, Perry, in a little bit, and then I'm going to ask you, as you're watching, what your big implementation or action item is going to be this week. You got to evolve and you got to get better. So Perry, where can people go really quickly? I'm going to throw the website up below you. The website, by the way, is perrymarshall.com/8020. What do people get when they go there?
You can buy 80/20 sales and marketing for $7, including shipping, instead of paying 17 or 20 bucks on Amazon, and we'll ship it to you, and we'll give you extra bonuses that you don't get if you buy it from Amazon. And this book will totally change your life. There was a wonderful comment somebody posted
Jim Butts
earlier.
That comment, and I will look for it. But he was actually
Jim House.
He was, maybe it was. I saw.
That's right.
Go ahead.
80/20 Sales and Marketing may have been the most influential and helpful book I read as I reinvented myself from school principal to entrepreneur. Thanks and prayers, brother. There you go. Well, thank you, Jim. This is the kind of book that you actually should read 5 times because it's so deep and it will change the way you see everything. Like, you literally will not look out the window and see the world, see what you used to see if you read this book, because 80/20 is everywhere. And all of a sudden it's like you got these X-ray goggles and you can see levers and systems and workarounds and ways of influencing things and tiny hinges that swing big doors. It'll totally change the way that you think about everything.
All right. So go to perrymarshall.com/8020. So without, so what's the solution? Honestly, what do we do as a culture to fix?
Okay. I'll give you a slice. So I talked to a guy, he's a founder of this company called Startup Health. Dan Sullivan introduced me to him. And I had this lunch with him, and he said the most profound thing to me. And I want you to take this and then extend it beyond the immediate context. He said, we were talking about science and scientists, or cancer researchers, like all those kind of people. And I love them. Like, I love scientists. I got so many friends who are scientists. They're wonderful, dear people. So I want you to hear me properly. He goes, scientists all by themselves, they just crank out all this research and the papers get published and the information just sits there and they don't know what to do with it. He goes, you know what, Perry? He says, there's nothing more powerful than a scientist with an entrepreneur. Oh, and you put them together. You take this guy with all these ideas and this knowledge and this research and everything, and you pair him up with a guy who's got quarterly goals and deadlines and people to feed and mouths and understands marketing and stuff like that. He goes, the technology transfer departments at universities are supposed to sell the intellectual property. They have no idea what they're doing. Entrepreneurs know what to do with this. Okay, so let's extend this. So we're not just talking about scientists. We're talking about administrators and managers and educators and financial planners and doctors and teachers and whoever. Entrepreneurs. Okay, this is an entrepreneurial show. Okay, the lion and the tiger get together. You're the lion, find the tiger and get humping. Okay, and 20 times, 19 times out of 20, it's not going to really work out. Or the attraction isn't there, or there's no baby, or the babies are sterile. Yeah, I know. But 1 out of 20, 1 out of 20, man, like one of the differences, Ed, okay, this is a big takeaway, big, right now, okay? So biggest difference between the 20th century and the 21st century is the 20th century is 80-20, the 21st century is 95-5. For reasons I don't have time to explain.
Acceleration.
Okay, it's acceleration.
Right.
Good enough. Okay. So in the 20th century, you're up to bat 10 times. You strike out 8 times. And you have like 1 double and then maybe 1 home run. Okay, that's 80-20. 95-5 is you're up to bat 20 times, not 10. You strike out 18 times instead of 8. And then you get 1 double, and then you get 1 grand slam. Bases loaded. Okay, that is how it works. You have a lower chance of success, and when you do succeed, you succeed wildly. That is the way it is right now. And that's the way it'll be for the foreseeable future. And in the 20th century, when things broke, they kind of broke a little. They never quite worked right, and then when they broke, they sort of broke. In the 21st century, when they work perfectly, and when they break, they're broken.
Huh.
I'll give you an example. A 125 nanometer virus appears on the earth and shuts down 1 billion people.
Sorry,
it would have never happened without international plane flights.
Right.
Okay, so we're all interconnected. So when one thing breaks, everything breaks. That's the 21st century. The 21st century is not less volatile, it's more volatile. So that's why you have to be an entrepreneur. And this is why it's the agility decade.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the entrepreneur combined with the scientist thing, I think, is absolutely brilliant. And I actually never thought about it this way. I was just saying to some friends of mine, I've got a guy who's fundamentally, he's been the first person who's been able to create a good, scientifically sound drink using molecular hydrogen. He's a scientist. And he's not a good marketer. Let me just put it that way. And he knows that. He's just really good in the lab. So we started talking yesterday about working together. But you're right. That's exactly the combination that comes. And by the way, when we say science, we're not talking about capital S, capital C, I-E-N-C-E. That, like, when a politician says science, what they're talking about is what they learned 60 years ago in high school that now they're just using as a gigantic bat to beat you with. First of all,
yeah, that's true.
First of all, what they learned 60 years ago is long since been disproven. And by the way, if you need help with that, if you learned a traditional Darwinian method, you get this book and you read it, because what you'll realize, and by the way, here's the other one. When you hear someone say scientific consensus, you have to immediately assume that they're lying and the opposite is true. Okay? Gee whiz. So, all right. So in a minute, Perry, I'm going to ask you just for a wrap up. And by the way, those of you who are watching right now, you're going to get a chance in about 6 minutes to tell me what your big focus area is. And Perry, if you want to stick around, you're welcome to do that. It's Focus Friday, and I want to hear your action steps for the next 7 days. It doesn't have to be about what we were talking about today. It can be about anything that we've talked about over the last week or more. So I'd love to hear in a minute. Don't put it in chat just yet. In a minute, I'm going to ask you for your big accountability items. But Perry, really, last question. What if you were, last thoughts really, but what do we do? What should someone do right now?
If you have, so there's 2 kinds of people right now. There's people who are slammed and they're working 14 hours a day because everybody's coming at them like, help me, help me, help me. Okay. That's one kind of person. The other kind of person is crickets. Okay. Because your restaurant is closed, or your fitness gym is closed, or you got sent home from school, or whatever. Okay. If you're in crickets, pick up the phone and you start calling people. And you go, what's your biggest problem right now? What's your biggest problem right now? What's your biggest problem right now? And you start asking questions and you start getting answers, and you go figure out how to hand out towels to naked swimmers. And go hand out towels to naked swimmers. And that's what you do. And you do it, and you do it, and you do it. You're going to be doing it for a long time. So get used to it and get busy. And this is not the time for the 4-hour work week. Okay. And one more thing. This is okay. If you need to work 14 hours, I'm working 14 hours a day, because there's so much. Well, I haven't even talked half of what's going on with me, and I'm not going to. Okay. There's a lot going on, but you have to do your Renaissance time. That is my word for you. Get your 20 minutes in the morning, or preferably 30 or an hour, but at least 20. Think, pray, meditate, center yourself, journal, talk to God, listen to God, get your head straight, have your private personal space. Inviolable, sacred, nothing gets in the way. No email, no phone call, no fire to put out. Nothing gets in the way of that. You must have your space to think. If you are too busy for that, you can go over the cliff with all the other lemmings that are watching CNN. You have to have time to listen.
Amen.
Have to.
Amen. By the way, I'm going to throw the website up one more time. And Perry, you're welcome to stay. We're going to hang out for about the next 7 minutes. But I
have to go at the top.
I do know that you need to go. So whenever you need to go, go. The website's perrymarshall.com/8020. Let me just talk about what Perry just said there and why I think that's so important. First of all, I've never worked as hard as I've worked in the last. I haven't worked as hard as I've worked in the last 10 days in the last 2 years. And I was talking to somebody this morning. I said, look, there's two ways. You can watch Netflix and be lazy all day long, or you can double down. And the question that you just said, what's your biggest problem, Perry, is a question that you taught me by virtue of a survey from Glenn Livingston back in 2008. And the first survey question said, what is the biggest challenge you're having? And then you fill in the blanks. And so the question to ask, by the way, it's coming up to the top of the hour, Perry, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you, my friend. We're going to keep the conversation going. And by the way, now is the time to put in your biggest focus item for the next 7 days, Focus Friday. Perry, thank you, dude. I really appreciate you. I know we'll talk again this week, but I love you and I like you, and thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ed. Love you, man. Love you, everybody. Thank you. Bye now.
Big claps for Perry, by the way. So tell me right now in chat what your big focus area is for this week. I'll throw it on, but I'll just kind of riff on what Perry just said, which was really impressive. The question I got from Glenn Livingston was, what's the biggest challenge you're having right now with? And you fill in the blanks on the with. So if you're teach auto repair people, what's the biggest challenge you're having right now with your auto repair shop? If you teach mortgage brokers, what's the biggest challenge you're having right now connecting to your customers? If you work on the fitness side, what's the biggest challenge right now you're having with generating revenue? Ask the biggest challenge question, and there's always money at the end of that question. All right. So I want to say one other thing that Perry said, which is really important. I've doubled down on my focus over the last 10 days. What that means is I'm getting up earlier. I usually get up, by the way, just so you know, and I'm going to do something probably next week on my morning routine. I usually get up whenever I wake up. I don't often set an alarm because I just want my body to sleep what it needs and then wake up. This last week, I've been getting up someplace between 5:30 and 6:30 in the morning. My first hour, all I'm doing is thinking. I'd read my Bible, think, pray, meditate, just kind of focus in just a little bit. And the last few times, I've literally just been downloading ideas that come direct onto the show. So there's something about that quiet time in the morning where you can just process. Then I work out, have some breakfast, get onto the show, and then get cranking because like this is big change, big opportunity time. And this is your time as well. Okay, so what I would love to hear you say in chat on whatever social media you're on, and we're going to be closing up the show in about 4 minutes. So now's the time to jump in and do it. So let me just go through a couple of things that people said. I do like this. Drew said, Michael Jordan said you have to fail first before you can win. Barry, I love this. Entrepreneur Science Masterclass #1. Walk. Gina says, I do my best thinking when I walk. By the way, I've been taking about a 1 hour walk hike with my family a few times a week as well. We've been doing that right after the workday. Here in San Diego, it's been raining, and it doesn't rain here as much as it's been raining. It's been beautiful. And so all these natural wildflowers are coming out that we don't normally say, which is so, so cool. Nicole says, best advice, protect your time, think, pray, meditate every morning first. Catherine just got Perry Marshall's book, which is really awesome. Let's see what Dennis said. Hold on a second. Let me make sure I didn't miss anyone. I think I did. Hang on. I'm going to go up to the top. Showing experts how to live stream. By the way, a nice shout out to Andy, who is the person who helped me get this show up and running. We were just checking this morning. Dennis says, personal, quiet time, the first thing in the morning is the #1 priority. I love it. Yeah, man. What's up, JD Krause? Good to see you, buddy. Drew says, lead gen, build new email lists and new prospects. Dr. Wendy Lee, dang, you got more than one, girl. Finalizing my freebie. Email my list 2 times a week. Blog video 2 times a week. Daily Facebook, Instagram posts. By the way, my tracking system that I've been using for this is called Habit Bull. T Fox says, building sites. David Zetz, my man, with the plan. Next 7 days, get at least 30 motivated referees inside my fitness app with his free workout program. I love it, man. Thank you for that. Finish and publish my book, says Barry Gamir. Thanks, man. Good to see you, buddy. My focus area, said Denise, is gathering positive, creative thinkers for a mastermind group. By the way, one of the reasons why you should join us every single day, Monday through Friday. Right now, look, I'm not going to do 5 days a week for the rest of my life, but I'm going to do it now for the next month or two to really give you a place where you can go and focus. Remember what Perry said about masterminding and about growing fast. This is a place where you can grow fast, so make sure that you spend time with us. Jim says, so good, spend time every day with the classroom of silence with God. I love it. Ed, waking up the bird. Dude, the birds woke me up. There's one bird every morning that just sits outside my door and just goes, boop, boop. And that's literally exactly what it sounds like. Catherine says, I post on Facebook and LinkedIn offering free advice for any employer with questions about how to handle the people. Good, I like that. John says, finish writing my guide, top resources for writers. By the way, there's a button right here that says subscribe. Push that button if you haven't pushed that button, all right? I keep forgetting to tell you that, but you need to do that because I'm not going to send out emails every time for the show, okay? Matt says the focus is daily time, and referee focus. I love it, dude. Dr. Tom, producing free Zoom meetings to cope health and well-being issues based on his book. JD, finding bleeding necks. Yeah, you got that right, man. Let me make sure I didn't miss anybody. Dennis, new updated book, completely new added chapter, online by next Friday. Gina, get clear on what the problem is I want to solve for the future clients and the transformations they'll get by working with me. By the way, you got about 3 minutes left, and I'm going to give you one last nugget before we leave, so put your accountability item. Yes, Christina says, I'm going to walk my dogs and think. I love it. Finish the last 5% of my course, says Jim Butts. Yeah, man, finish that course or just publish it 95%, all right? More meditation, says Wendell Buggs. Insight Timer, by the way, is my app that I've been using. Look for Brock Devine, and you'll notice his voice sounds exactly like mine. Charles says Zoom meetings for dental colleagues to reinvent their financial life. Whew, got that right. Hello, says well done, Andy. Hello, Graham. This week has been about catch up and clearing the decks. Next week is clean whiteboard with the clean key focus word pivot. Love it. Coach Scott, my primary business supports collegiate and major AAU, NCAA sanctioned events. Man, all put on hold, 100 contractors canceled in a moment. We'll focus on 30-year copywriting. Boy, isn't that true? I have a summer event that's still on, the last I checked, but boy, lots changed in that world. Robin, hello. Design and execution of the offer for your podcast. The website I've been using for this is not Lead Pages. What's the other one? ClickFunnels has great templates for that. And I should put like an affiliate link, but I'm just telling you, that's what I use. 3D Learner, what's up? showing parents how to Zoom, online learning, and creating time with their child. 4 months of dramatic growth for their child. I love it, man. Very good. Good for you. Christina, working with active duty passive income website. Good for you. Let's see. By the way, the website is edrush.com/bunkerbash. And if you haven't done this, man, don't forget to do this. Go below, I don't know, wrong button, to edrush.com and make sure you subscribe there if you haven't done that. That way you'll get all of the insider stuff that everybody doesn't get. Cindy says, call it. Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. You got that right. They need to hear from you, Cindy, right now. Diana, daily meditate, yoga, walk. Contact my email, folks. Post daily on Facebook page and the blog. Boom. Thank you, Drew, for subscribing. You are the man, sir. Maybe start a mastermind class to teach people how and why our carbon emissions don't change climate. Who benefits from this knowledge? Matt, sorry, that's you talking to each other. Settled on Kajabi, now trying to learn more and get in my courses and coaching program. By the way, I did say that I would try to do an interview with Jonathan Kronstadt from Kajabi, so I'm working on that. And I would also just like to remind you, next week, I've got 3 people lined up. Monday, I'm bringing Michael Haig back. We're going to talk about how to create a superhero persona using the movies that you can use to market effectively with, and all of the psychology in Hollywood psychology that goes along with it. It's going to be awesome, okay? Denise, making sure my website is in line with ending pessimism. And good. All right, so I think I got to the end. By the way, the website is below, edrush.com. Thank you, John Teague, for subscribing and hitting the bell. I appreciate you, and I appreciate y'all. We are going to take a break for the weekend. Listen, every Sunday, my family and I are taking what we call a CV-free day. Here's what that means. We're not talking about the coronavirus. We're not thinking about the coronavirus. We're not looking at news articles, because guess what? A day later, you can catch up on everything and nothing has changed. Okay, look, more governments are going to make people stay more inside. The media is going to keep saying, wow, this is crazy. You got to be scared. And you shouldn't be scared. You should look at the opportunities that are in front of you. And you need at least a 24-hour day every single week to take your mind off of current events and to focus on solutions to the problem, okay? And this show, by the way, is designed to show you how to do exactly that. So I'll be back on Monday with Michael Haig. Later on next week, by the way, I've got my go-to LinkedIn guy. LinkedIn is a very important platform for you right now. And then later in the week, I'm going to interview an NFL football player who is endeavoring to climb the world's 7 highest mountains. That's all for next week. Thanks, John. He said subscribe and hit the bell. The button, by the way, is right here. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, just hit the like or the share button. And I appreciate you guys. Listen, focus, flat out, get it done. There's huge opportunities in this world of hyper evolution, and you can totally crush it. I will see you on Monday. We're going to have an awesome time together solving the world's problems. And by the time we come out of the bunker, you're going to be better, stronger, and faster. My name's Ed Rush. I will talk to you soon.